The Anglo-Saxons don't arrive all at once. It's a gradual process over decades. They land on the eastern and southern coasts of Britain, some as invaders, others as mercenaries. These leaders hope the newcomers will help defend against other invaders. But many of these mercenaries decide to stay and settle. As they move inland, the Anglo-Saxons establish new communities, clear forests, and set up farms. Anglo-Saxon settler. The landscape of Britain begins to change. The Roman towns and villas fall into disuse and new Anglo-Saxon settlements spring up. The language changes too. Old English, the ancestor of our modern tongue, begins to take root. This migration marks the end of Roman Britain and the beginning of Anglo-Saxon England. The culture, language, and political structure of the island are transformed. The Anglo-Saxons bring their pagan beliefs, their tribal customs, and their warrior ethos. They lay the foundations for what will become medieval England. By the 7th century, the Anglo-Saxon settlers have established themselves across much of Britain. The island is no longer a single political unit, but divided into several kingdoms. Historians often refer to this period as the Heptarchy, meaning rule of seven. These kingdoms are Northumbria, Mercia, East Anglia, Essex, Kent, Sussex, and Wessex. Each has its own king and royal dynasty, laws and customs. The boundaries between them are fluid, often changing as kings fight for supremacy. Northumbria dominates in the north, Mercia in the Midlands, and Wessex in the south and west. Within these kingdoms, Anglo-Saxon society takes shape. At the top are the kings and their nobles, the warrior elite. They live in great halls and lead their people in war. Below them are the freemen, farmers, craftsmen, and traders who own their own land and have certain rights. At the bottom of society are the slaves, often prisoners of war or people who've fallen into debt. The Heptarchy period is one of constant change and conflict. Kings fight for supremacy, kingdoms rise and fall, and alliances are made and broken. But it's also a time of cultural development. The Anglo-Saxons begin to develop a distinct identity. They're no longer just settlers from across the sea, they're becoming the English. Their language, laws, and customs are taking root. The foundations of medieval England are being laid in this turbulent time. The Heptarchy is a crucial phase in the formation of England. The conversion isn't instant, it takes time. Some kings and nobles embrace the new faith quickly while others resist. Monks and missionaries travel the land, preaching and setting up monasteries. Christian missionary Christianity brings big changes to Anglo-Saxon society. It introduces new ideas and practices. Monasteries become centers of learning, preserving knowledge from the Roman world and producing beautiful manuscripts. The church provides a structure that extends beyond individual kingdoms, creating a sense of unity among the Anglo-Saxons. The conversion also affects daily life. The Christian calendar, with its feast days and fasts, shapes the rhythm of the year. Christian morality influences laws and customs. The church becomes a major landowner and plays a role in politics. Bishops and abbots become important figures, advising kings and helping govern. The old pagan beliefs don't disappear entirely, they often blend with Christian practices, but by the end of the 7th century, England is largely a Christian land. This spiritual revolution sets the stage for the next phase of Anglo-Saxon history. The church's influence grows, shaping the culture and politics of the land. Christianity becomes a unifying force, connecting England to the wider Christian world of Europe. The transformation is profound, marking a new chapter in the island's history. The spiritual revolution is a cornerstone of Anglo-Saxon England's development. Over time, the Viking attacks intensify. They're no longer just raids. The Vikings begin to stay, establishing bases in England. By the mid-9th century, large Viking armies are invading, conquering much of northern and eastern England. This area becomes known as the Danelaw, where Viking law and customs hold sway. Viking raider. The Viking invasions bring chaos and change. They disrupt the balance of power among the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Some kingdoms, like Northumbria and East Anglia, fall to the Vikings, while others, like Wessex, resist. The invasions force the Anglo-Saxons to adapt. They build fortified towns called burhs, reorganize their armies, and develop new tactics. The Vikings also bring cultural changes. They introduce new words into the English language, and many place names in northern England have Norse origins. Viking art styles influence Anglo-Saxon crafts. In some areas, Viking and Anglo-Saxon communities live side by side, intermarrying and trading. The Danelaw becomes a distinct region with its own laws and customs. The Viking invasions are a time of violence and upheaval, but they also lead to cultural exchange and new developments. They reshape the political and cultural landscape of England. The Viking era is a transformative period in Anglo-Saxon history. The legacy of the Vikings is still evident in England today. Alfred the Great, defender of Wessex and scholar king. In the midst of Viking chaos, a remarkable leader emerges. This is Alfred, King of Wessex. He comes to the throne in 871 at a time of crisis. Alfred faces a huge challenge. He must defend his kingdom and push back the Viking tide. Alfred proves to be a skilled military leader. In 878, he wins a crucial victory at the Battle of Edington. But Alfred is more than just a warrior king. He's also a scholar and a reformer. He promotes learning, establishes schools, and translates important books. Alfred's achievements earn him the title the Great. His vision and leadership leave an indelible mark on English history. Section 6. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Recording history. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is one of the most important legacies of Alfred the Great's reign. It's the first continuous history of a European people in their own language. Different versions are kept at various monasteries across England. It records major events and everyday occurrences like eclipses and harsh winters. The entry for 937 includes a poem celebrating an English victory. The Chronicle is more than just a record, it's a tool for shaping identity. Some versions continue into the 12th century. The Chronicle's legacy endures, providing a window into the past. Section 7. Old English Literature, Beowulf and Beyond. The Anglo-Saxon period gives birth to a rich literary tradition. The crown jewel of Old English literature is Beowulf. This epic poem tells the story of a Scandinavian hero who fights monsters. It's set in the pre-Christian past, but written down in Christian times, blending pagan and Christian elements. It's the longest surviving Old English poem and a masterpiece of early European literature. But Old English literature is more than just Beowulf. The Wanderer and the Seafarer are elegiac poems reflecting on loss and exile. Old English poetry has its own distinct style, using alliteration and kennings. This literature gives us a window into the Anglo-Saxon mind, showing their values, fears, and hopes. Section 8. Anglo-Saxon Art and Architecture. A unique aesthetic. The Anglo-Saxons developed a distinctive artistic style, blending native traditions with influences from Celtic, Roman, and later Viking sources. Anglo-Saxon art is characterized by intricate patterns and stylized animal forms, often with symbolic meanings reflecting both pagan and Christian beliefs. The art appears on jewelry, weapons, and religious objects. Metalwork is a particular strength of Anglo-Saxon craftsmen. The Sutton Hoo treasure, found in a 7th century ship burial, shows the skill of these artisans. It includes a magnificent helmet decorated with intricate designs and gold and garnet jewelry, showing delicate craftsmanship. These objects were not just decorative, they were symbols of status and power. Manuscript illumination is another important art form. Monasteries produce beautifully decorated books. The Lindisfarne Gospels, created around 700, is a masterpiece, combining Anglo-Saxon, Celtic and Mediterranean styles. The intricate patterns and colourful illustrations are breathtaking. These manuscripts were more than just books, they were works of art and objects of devotion. Anglo-Saxon architecture also has its own character. Early Anglo-Saxon buildings were mainly of wood, but later stone buildings become more common, especially for churches. Anglo-Saxon churches are often small and simple, with distinctive features like tall, narrow towers and small, round-headed windows. The Church of St. Lawrence in Bradford-on-Avon is a well-preserved example showing the quiet dignity of Anglo-Saxon architecture. This art and architecture reflects the Anglo-Saxon worldview, showing their love of intricate design, their spiritual beliefs, and their connection to the natural world. The legacy of Anglo-Saxon art and architecture endures, enriching our cultural heritage. The unique aesthetic of the Anglo-Saxons continues to inspire and captivate. Section 9. Daily life in Anglo-Saxon England, from farmers to warriors. Life in Anglo-Saxon England was diverse. Most people were farmers, living in small villages and working the land. Their houses were simple, usually made of wood with thatched roofs. The rhythm of life followed the seasons, with planting, harvesting, and caring for animals. Food was simple but varied, with bread as a staple. Towns existed where craftsmen practiced their trades. At the top were the warriors, living in great halls, feasting and boasting of their deeds. Their lives were governed by loyalty, training for battle, and going on raids. Anglo Saxon life was a blend of farming, craftsmanship, and warrior culture.